Good. Hello. Welcome to another of our bookshop's wonderful events. We have what is being recorded as all kind of an end of term bit of fun. Olaf, good mate of mine, is has published this. Anyone going to the Edinburgh Festival this year? This is going to be his little promotion merchandise after his shows in Edinburgh. So uh, this is a poo on a pogo stick, and honestly, hours of fun. I say we. It's got all my favourites anyway. So without further ado, let me hand you over to Olaf.
Thank you very much. But what a warm welcome and a very good welcome. And like Ben just said, this is probably the best joke book you will ever need, to be honest with you. And also, it's got some of the funniest jokes and also some of the funniest illustrations because I've illustrated it myself. But for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm going to do a quick introduction. Okay, so I am this person here that you're looking at,
That one
and
there,
this
definitely.
one here. Yeah, that's me, definitely me. And I do like to wear stripes quite a lot because it can mess with the TV screen if you're wearing stripes. But I've got six jobs. Okay, so I am mainly the top three. Well, actually, no, not top three. The top one, the top job is dad. So I'm a dad. I've got two daughters. One of them is in year nine, and the other one is in year 11, who I think I just mentioned if you got here nice and early. And the year 11 one, she's finished her GCSEs and she's at home helping me out around the house at the minute. And the year 9 one, she really likes art and drawing and painting. And I really like art and drawing and painting because I'm not just an author, which is my second job. I'm also an illustrator. So, as well as writing all of my books, I draw all of the pictures in my books. So, A Poo on a Pogo Stick, which is my book, I have drawn all of the pictures. And you see, there's loads and loads of pictures throughout this book. So, I've tried to cram it with as many pictures as possible. So, I'm a dad, I'm an author, I'm an illustrator, I'm also a football coach. So, I coach a football team, I coach my daughter's under 16s girls football team. I also like to support football as well. I like to watch my local team.
Who's that?
Who's my local? We'll leave that one till the questions at the end.
All right.
um, what other jobs? Oh, I'm a comedian, of course. So that's why I've come up with a joke book, is because I come up with lots of jokes. I'm always coming up with jokes. And what other? Oh yeah, the other job is I am the host of a thing called Art Club, and I also do lots of art tutorials in a magazine. I don't know if you've heard of this magazine. Some schools I know get it delivered to them. It's called The Week Junior. And once a month, I do like a little art how-to, like how to recreate Pablo Picasso or how to do an artwork like Banksy. So I do that every month in there. So that's another. Is that all six jobs? I think that's all six jobs. So yeah, I am a comedian. That's so. To be honest with you, comedian, author, and illustrator. They're the three jobs that you need to know for this event. And I might quickly show you some of my previous books. Okay, so this one here, I don't know what ages I've got joined in. I'm guessing it's because this was billed for Key Stage 2
It is
kids.
Key Stage 2,
It
really,
is Key
yes.
Stage 2. Well,
Years three to six.
this book technically is meant to be a bit more Key Stage 1, Blobfish. So this is one of my picture books. So I do chapter books and I do picture books. And now I also do joke books. This one called Blobfish is won quite a few awards and it's meant to be for Key Stage 1. But I tell you what, loads and loads of older kids, including my own two, absolutely love it. It's about a sad little fish. Let me find a good page. A sad little blobfish who lives at the bottom of the sea all on his own. Look how sad he is. And he's got no friends. And he tries to tell himself jokes to pass the time. And he gets really sad and he goes off and he cries. And then someone, I don't know if you can see there, throws a plastic bag away. And Blobfish, the plastic bag lands in the ocean. And Blobfish thinks that the plastic bag is a friend. Here we go, let me find that. And he starts talking to it. It doesn't talk back. And he starts to dance with the plastic bag. And he ends up getting caught up in the plastic bag. And there's a bit near the end where you think that Blobfish has suffocated and has died, and it gets really sad. And all the kids, when I read it to Key Stage 1 kids, there's a bit in the book where they all go, no! But luckily, he does get rescued and there is a happy ending. And like in a lot of my books, it does actually end with a fart. So we've got fish there. He actually he does make a friend in the end. He makes a friend who's a little crab. Let me show you the little crab. There's the little crab, and he is saying, "Here, you'll like this, blobby nose. Pull my claw." Now, I don't know if anyone's got any dads that are as funny as I am, but a very dad trick to do is to get your kids to pull your finger just before you're about to fart, and that's what the little crab does. He gets Blobfish to pull his finger, and he does an underwater fart there that goes blurble. I don't know if you can see. So that's quite a funny. It's actually won a few awards, which is for me, that's really good because I don't win that many awards for my books. But this, for some reason, lots of people have liked it. But going back to me talking about my youngest daughter who really likes art, I really like art and drawing, and that gave me the idea to come up with a chapter book, which I'm going to show you here. If you like things like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and I'm pretty sure some of the kids, I know I've visited a few of the schools that are in the chat, so you might already have seen this book. It is called Trixie Pickle Art Avenger, and she is an artist, and she is inspired by the artist Banksy, and she gets back at bullies, and she gets even with horrible teachers. She basically makes her world a much nicer place by doing various different things that are inspired by real life artists. And throughout this book, there are these fact files. Oh, I was mentioning Picasso earlier on. There he is. There's Pablo Picasso. It's like it tells you all about the different artists that she is inspired by and how she uses those artists to get back at bullies. And then, as if that wasn't good enough, there is the second one, Trixie Pickle Art Avenger Toxic Takedown. If we have got time, I'm just looking at the time now, I might show you some things that I'm working on. This is like top secret. So there you go. I might show you that later. That was really quick.
It's very good.
And I'll definitely get to that. But what I think I'm going to show you now is a poo on a pogo stick, which is something that it took quite a lot of work for me to come up with all of the jokes and then to edit them down into my favorite ones. So I've only put my favorite jokes in here and then to do all of the funny illustrations. And I don't know how old you all are. If you're Key Stage 2, I'm guessing you're sort of around 8, 9, 10. Do you get 11-year-olds? A few 11-year-olds. And when I was your age, so when I was about 10, 11, there was one book that I loved. And it was this book here. You can still get it, and it is still a very good book. It is called The Ha Ha Bonk Book. And it is by Janet and Alan Alberg. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. And this book has got lots of jokes in it. And it's also got lots of illustrations. And I loved this as a child, and I was really inspired to make my book kind of like a modern version of the Ha Ha Bonk book. So again, it's a modern version. And if you look on the front there, there's a little stoat, and he's holding up a sign that says "Stotally, the best joke book ever." And like I said, there are loads and loads and loads and loads of illustrations. And I think what I'm going to do now, we are going to do some drawing later on. So I hope, teachers, you have got a sheet of paper for everyone. I mean, it doesn't matter if you don't do the drawing, but it'd be a shame if you don't, because we're going to draw a poo on a pogo stick. It would be handy if you have a sheet of paper and then something to draw with, like a pencil. I'm going to use a black pen just so you can see it better, but pencil's probably better because you probably all have pencils and you can rub it out if you kind of want to.
Got mine.
You've got yours. Brilliant. Right, I'm going to share my screen, Ben, on this one here, if I can work out how to do that again. Just bear with me a second, because I have got, rather than me holding up the joke book to the screen, I should be able to.
You need to put video live. Yeah, there we are.
Are we on? Are we going?
Yeah, it's appearing.
Oh. So I press play there. There we go. So that is the cover. And if you see in the background there are loads of different characters from the book who are all kind of heading into the book. And I've actually started this book with a little congratulations, because I think if you are one of the lucky people to have bought a copy of this book. I need to mention actually, everyone who is on this call, your school, your teacher should have been sent, or has definitely been sent, a link. And that link, hopefully, teachers, you'll be able to send it to the parents, and they will be able to buy a copy, not just any old copy, a signed copy. Because after I've done this Zoom thing, I'm going to go and visit our bookshop in Tring. I'm going to go and see Ben, and he has got a big pile of these, and I'm going to go through and sign them all one by one. So if you want a signed copy, then you have to
Mhm.
get the link from your teachers and get your parents to buy. And there'll also be a bit of a competition that I'll mention later. But anyway, gets back to this congratulations. It says, well done for picking up this book. You have made a very wise choice indeed. It contains most of my best jokes and loads of the funniest jokes I've ever heard. Before you start reading it, though, I think I need to make a few things clear. This book will not make you richer. I need to point that out, okay? It will not make you more popular, and it won't make you taller unless you stand on top of it. In that case, it will make you around 8 millimeters taller because the book is about 8 millimeters thick. There you go. So if you stand on top of it, it will actually make you taller. What I can say for sure is that this book will make you snort tea or milkshake or whatever you happen to be drinking at the time out of your nose at least 6 times. Now, Ben from the bookshop there, he's only just started reading this book. Uh, and he almost snorted out whatever he was drinking earlier with one of the jokes. And I might tell you that joke later on. Enjoy these jokes. And remember, if you would like to be 8 centimeters taller, then please buy 10 copies of this book. Okay. So if you buy 10 copies and stack them up, then you can be 8 centimeters taller. And I don't know if you can see at the bottom there, there's a spider, and he is saying, fancy a kick around. He's got a little football there. And the poo, he is saying, maybe later I've got a better idea. And he's just found the pogo stick. Right, before we get into the actual thing, I've got the contents here. Now, normally the contents is quite boring, but I feel like you need to know the contents of this book because I tried to separate all the jokes out into sections and they have got names. Well, first off, there's a warning. I've had to do a little warning. My editors made me put the warning in. There's a section called Rabbit Farts. Not jokes. You look like a bowl of custard. An axolotl of animal jokes. Some kind of wind up. Another marmoset of animal jokes. Some scary cheese jokes. Some food jokes. There's some famous folk jokes. Some friends, family, and funerals jokes. Some silly rhymes and poems, and I'm going to tell you a few of those because they're some of my favorites. Some advanced jokes. Now, the advanced jokes, not everyone will get all of the advanced jokes, but again, we'll talk about that later. And then to finish off with, probably my favorite section, the toilet humor jokes. And if I look down here, just another example of some of the drawings. There's a tractor, a snail, a bin lorry, there's a centipede, a tank, and a bus, just because. Now, here's the warning that I told you about. Before I read the warning, I'm just going to show you some of the drawings on the side. There's a satellite, and he's saying, I'm a satellite. And there's a rocket, and he is saying, my bum's been satellite. There's a cloud there, and he's saying, hello, fellow clouds. And the one in the middle says, I'm not a cloud. And the other one says, well, what are you then? He says, you'll find out on page 54. And then when you go to page 54, there is a joke about that. Actually, I don't think let me find that joke. That joke is, what do you call a sheep with no legs? A cloud. So that one there is actually a sheep with no legs. It's not a cloud. I don't know if you can see on the side there, there's also a sausage bird, which you may or may not know about, but I will definitely tell you about sausage birds later. And there we've got a door. There's quite a lot of doors in the knock knock section. He's saying, I hope there are jokes about doors. And there's a little jam jar saying, and jam jokes too. And then the poo with the pogo stick says, when is a door not a door? When it's a jar, which is a really old joke. That's not one of mine. That's a really old joke. And basically, a jar means when a door is slightly open. So a door is a jar, but it also sounds like a jar. Here we go. Here's the warning that I was forced to put in by my editor. And look, there's that spider again. I've spied a warning. I've spider. Anyway. Please be warned, you won't get every single joke in this book right away. Sometimes you might have to ask a grown-up to fully get the joke reference. And sometimes a grown-up might have to ask you. I've included these more sophisticated jokes because I know a lot of authors just wouldn't. Grown-ups, they often say things like, children are stupid, they wouldn't understand that. I, however, know that despite you buying a book called A Poo on a Pogo Stick, you are definitely not stupid. Okay, maybe just a little bit stupid. If there is a particular joke that you don't get, then you have four choices. You can ignore it and move on. You can research the word. Oh, something's gone funny there. You can research the word that you don't understand. You can ask a grown up, or you can pull your eyelid down as far as it goes and then try blowing your nose. I don't think that last one will help much. The best
No.
thing about these kinds of jokes, though, is that often you won't actually get them until about 6 months after you first read them. And then they kind of come to you like, oh, I get it now. And that means that in theory, this book could actually last you until you are 112 years old. So how is that for, that's really good value for money, isn't it? Here we go. Let's go crack into it. Now, the first section in the book I've called Rabbit Farts. And I've given the sections different names. And some of the sections are about the jokes. They all have like a common theme. Sometimes they're just a random section of jokes, and I've just named it after one of the jokes that is in that section. Now, this is one of those random sections, and one of the jokes has rabbit farts in it. And I've actually put here that rabbit farts is also, quite coincidentally, also the name of an aftershave that I got bought for Christmas. Here we go. I don't know whether you can see these or not. What's brown, goes boing, and knocks on your bedroom window at night? It's the first joke in the book. It's also the last joke in the book. And the answer is a poo on a pogo stick. So that is where the title of the book came from. A poo on a pogo stick. It's the punchline to the very first joke in the book. Here we go. The next one. What do you call a magician if you take away his magic? Ian. So basically, if you take away the word magic from the word magician, all you're left with are the letters IAN, which is Ian. Here you go. If anyone says you're as keen as mustard, take it as a condiment. Some of these jokes are quite stupid. What do elephants have for lunch? Half an hour like the rest of the animals. I don't. What do you lot get for lunch? How do you get an hour? Do you get? I get as long as I want because I am my own boss. When you get this old and you've got a big beard, you can take as long as you like for lunch. I quite like this next one. There was a huge queue to get into the World Dominoes Championships until I pushed the person at the back over. I like that joke because in my head it gives you like a little mental image of a queue of people all lining up, waiting to get into the Dominoes Championships, and then me sneaking up to the person at the back and pushing them over and watching them all go. What's green and has wheels? Grass. I was lying about the wheels. I like that joke because it's just nonsense, and I like a. I'll tell actually in a bit. I'll tell you. It's to do with the week junior. I'll tell you about how to write jokes and writing jokes. Doctor, I accidentally got a shriveled conker stuck up my nose. Ah, that old chestnut. Now, do you remember the spider who was playing football or wanted to play football at the beginning? Here's a joke for him. Why were the spiders playing football in the saucer? Because they got knocked out of the cup. Quite good. And then here we go. I was wondering why the baseball kept getting bigger and bigger. And then it hit me. And this is why this section is called Rabbit Farts. What's invisible and smells like carrots? Rabbit farts. It's one of my favourite. And you can see the little drawing there of the rabbit farting. And the other one saying, I didn't find that very bunny. Now, in the week junior, this week, actually, so I don't know if you know, I should have mentioned this, today, it's quite coincidental because we didn't plan this, did we, Ben? Today, July the 1st, and you can look it up, it's International Joke Day. And the week junior, they said to me, as it's International Joke Day, can we do a bit in the week junior that is all to do with how to write jokes? And if you look closely, can I zoom in? There we go. You can see on the front of the week junior, there is the poo on a pogo stick. And at the top there, there's a little thing that says, make your friends laugh out loud on page 27. And if you go to page 27, oh, you can see an article that I've written, and it says, write a hilarious joke. And if I zoom in, is that going to zoom in? I've done a little introduction, and then I've done 4 steps that you can use if you would like to write a joke. And the first one, let me see if I can make them a bit bigger. The first one is to play with words. And it says words can mean more than one thing. And sometimes words sound the same but are spelled differently. And if you play with these, it's called making a pun. You might not have heard that word, a pun. It's like another word for a joke that's to do with wordplay. And I do quite a lot of puns. When I'm doing comedy on a stage in front of people, normally grown-ups, but I also do a really good comedy show for kids. I make a lot of puns. Here we go. Here's one. How do you make a cat stand completely still? Press pause. Now, press pause, it can mean press pause like on a remote control, or it can mean press pause as in press the paws of the cat, because the word pause and the word pause, they sound the same, but they're different. So that is like making a pun. The one that I've done here is, for my granddad's funeral, we all dressed up as Norse gods. He wanted it to be a low-key affair. Now, low-key is a Norse god. And when you say you want something to be a low-key affair, you mean that you don't want it to be much of a fuss. You want it to be quite low-key. Anyway, the next thing is to trick your listeners. Quite a good thing to do with a joke is to guide the people who are hearing it down one path, and then you kind of twist it at the end and you think, he wasn't going on about what I thought he was going on about. It was something completely different. And one of the jokes that I put here is, what has 5 toes but isn't your foot? My foot. Do you see what I mean? It kind of tricks you a bit. You're thinking, what has 5 toes but isn't my foot? And then you say, my foot. This is another one that I like. What do you get hanging from apple trees? Everyone thinks you're going to say apples, but the answer is actually sore arms. Because if you're hanging from an apple tree, you do get sore arms. So play with words, trick your listener. The third one is to make jokes about popular things. So popular things like books or movies or musicians. Because if you make jokes that everyone kind of knows about, or things that are popular, then it's almost like you're sharing an inside joke with the world, with everyone, because everyone knows the reference. So for example, in this one, I've got a joke about Peter Pan. Why is Peter Pan always flying? Because he never lands. Because he never lands. And another one, which I quite like, the other day I saw a lion and a witch, and they were taking a wardrobe in next door. I asked them what they were up to. They said, Narnia business. So the lion, the witch, and the wardrobe.
That's a favorite of mine as well.
Do you like that one? It's all to do with the book, The Chronicles of Narnia. Here we go. And then the last tip for writing a joke is to just be a bit silly. I've often said my favorite jokes are the silliest ones. Sometimes a lot of these jokes are like a question and an answer, but a lot of the silly ones aren't necessarily. They might be just a silly thought that I can say on stage or say out loud or tell someone. So I put here, if you don't like cheese with holes in it, then all you need to do is just eat the cheese and leave the holes on the side of your plate. Which is really stupid, I know, but it makes me laugh. Another one, which I really like, is, what rhymes with potato? No, it doesn't. Sorry, apologies, but that is my sense of humour. That makes me laugh. Right, I'm going to quickly, I'm just aware of the time. Rather than doing some more jokes, I'm going to go to this page, which is silly rhymes and poems. And it says here, while they are technically not jokes, these poems and silly rhymes are still very funny. And that's why I've given them a chapter in this book. If you want to make your own silly poem, all you need are some words that rhyme. Like, I don't know, Fred, bread, dead, and head. I tell you what, let's have a silly poem competition. See if you can take those 4 words and use them to go and make a funny rhyme. I'll have a go too, and I'll put my attempt at the end of this chapter. If your poem is better than mine, you can hold up an imaginary trophy and say to yourself, I'm a poet and I didn't know it. Sound fair? Here we go. And then I don't know if you can see the ear there. The ear is saying sounds fair. And actually, the first poem, it has that ear with it. And the first poem in here is actually called Poems. A poem can be likened to a tiny lump of wax. Both are pleasant in your ears, but neither make good snacks. There you go. I don't know if you've tried to eat wax. Ah, it tastes disgusting. Now, the next poem is called Onomatopoeia. I don't know whether you learn about onomatopoeia in year two. Does anyone know what a word that is onomatopoeic? It's a word that sounds like the thing that it's trying to describe. So, for example, a lot of the animal sounds like woof and bark and buzz. So the word buzz, it kind of sounds like a buzz, a buzzing fly, or a buzz. Tick-tock is onomatopoeic. So anyway, I also think the word onomatopoeia sounds a bit like on a mat, I pee. So this one is called onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia, my brother said to Mia, while stood on a settee, about to do a weir. So there he is. And there's the little brother, and he's saying, onomatopoeia. And then, I don't know if you can see, there's a pterodactyl. And he is saying, why not just use the loo? And the reason there's a pterodactyl in is because a few pages earlier, which you won't have known, that pterodactyl, he had his own joke. I don't know if you know how to spell pterodactyl. It actually starts with the letter P. It's P-T-E. Here we go. I'll show you the joke. Why can't you hear a pterodactyl in the bathroom? Because the P is silent. And there he is, going for a
Very,
P.
very clever.
Now, my next rhyme, let me see if I got my next rhyme, is called The School Band. I quite like this one. It's kind of cheese based. There's a cheese called halloumi. I don't know if you've ever had halloumi. I quite like it. It's quite a salty cheese, but it's also quite rubbery and quite squeaky. Here we go. The school band. Most children played recorder. Violin was played by some. A couple did piano, whilst others learned to drum. But I was never eager to be part of the pack. So I stood with my halloumi and squeaked it at the back. And then you can see there's kids playing recorder and violin and drums. And there's a little boy at the back, and he's got a slice of halloumi, and he's going squeak, squeak, squeak. There's also a banana playing piano, and that is actually from an earlier joke. That is, what is Beethoven's favourite fruit? Banana. There you go. That's. I don't know if you can see. If I hold it up to the screen, there's. Can't do it. Can't do it very well when I'm holding up the screen. But yeah, there you go. Oh, there's also a cello going cello again, because he was in an earlier joke. A lot of the pictures, kind of the characters go throughout the book and they turn up at different points. So you get to know them. This is one of my favourite nonsense poems. My granddad used to tell me this poem when I was a boy, so I thought I'm going to have to put this one in. It's called Bar Bar Moo Cow. And it's just stupid. Bar Bar Moo Cow, have you any eggs? Yes, sir, twopence a bunch. One for the llama, 10 for the pig, and 7 for the fleas that live inside my wig. It's just stupid, which is why I really like it. And the chicken there is saying that's just nonsense. Yeah, it is. This is another stupid one. Fuzzy Wuzzy. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair, so Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't fuzzy, was he? It's a bit of a tongue twister, that. And there you've got a fuzzy bear saying hi there, and then you've got Fuzzy Wuzzy, who doesn't have any hair, saying show off. I want to do that one again. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair, so Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't fuzzy, was he? The trick with that one is to try and say it as quickly as you can. This is, I mean, it's a favourite one of mine because it's a little bit naughty. I quite liked the thing I used to like about the Ha Ha Bonk book, which was the one that was my inspiration. There were jokes in there that were a little bit kind of naughty, which I liked as a 10-year-old. Mary had a little lamb. Mary had a little lamb. She tied it to a pylon. 1,000 volts shot up its bum and turned its wool to nylon. There you can see the lamb getting a little electric shock. A hippopotamus. A hippopotamus may look preposterous, but please don't stand right where its bottom is, because you'll get squashed. And the next page, this one is called chewing gum. According to my dear old mum, I shouldn't swallow chewing gum. At first it sticks to all my ribs, and then it goes and blocks my bum. This is pancake day, flipping pancakes. And I always sing this with my kids every pancake day. And it's the thing about this one is you just repeat it until it gets annoying. And with my kids, it's normally about 3 or 4 times. And it goes like this: flip, 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 you're flipping pancakes. Flip, flip, flip them all day long. And when you flip, 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 you're flipping pancakes. Be sure that you sing this flipping song. Flip, 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 you're flipping pancakes. Flip, flip, flip them all day long. Should we do it? What do you reckon? 72 times? I reckon we've got. No, we won't. We'll stop that there. Look, there's a flying pan. It's a bit like a frying pan, but it's got wings. Now, the next one, I mentioned him earlier. It's the sausage bird. The sausage is a cunning bird with feathers long and wavy. It swims around the frying pan and makes its nest in gravy. It flies around the orchard. The fruit there is quite sparse. A branch goes snap. It tries to flap and ends up on the grass. The sausage is a hungry bird. It sees a big fat plum. The big fat plum is mouldy, so it splats it with its bum. Now, I have actually made like a sculpture because I like art. I don't know if you can see behind me, my background, there's a lot of art behind me. When I'm talking later, perhaps I'll show you some of it. But I've actually made a sculpture of a sausage bird relaxing in a gravy boat. We'll talk about that a bit later on because we've got one more poem and it is called Breadhead Fred. Do you remember I was talking about in the introduction using those rhymes to make a poem and see if you can do one as well? Well, here's my one. My neighbour Fred has a most unusual head. My neighbour Fred has a head made out of bread. A flock of ducks pecked at Fred's bready head. Now my neighbour Fred is very much dead. And then I don't know if you can see the little person there. He's holding a trophy. And if you've got super duper eyesight on the trophy, it says, I'm a poet and I didn't know it. There's also a duck there that is saying, I'd like to meet this Fred. Yeah, because you want to nibble his head. That's why. And if you can see in the bottom corner, I might zoom in on this. There is the sausage bird, and he's taking a nap in a gravy boat. When I finish this, I will show you my sausage bird in a gravy boat because I'm quite proud of it.
Olaf, the gravy boat rhyme, was that one you remembered as a child?
Well, the first verse was one that I remembered as a child, and I thought I'm going to add 2 more verses to it. Let me go back to it.
Do you ever remember? Have you met anybody else who remembers that poem? Because
No, I sometimes wonder whether I dreamt it. So it used to be the sausage is a cunning bird with feathers long and wavy. It swims around the frying pan and makes its nest in gravy. And that was it. And I remember it as a kid and I tried to find out who it was. I found a book of poetry from like 1970 something and it just accredited it to anonymous. So it was just those 4 lines, and it was almost like no one had written it or no one knew who'd written it first. And I thought, well, I'm going to take those 4 lines and I'm going to add 2 more verses. And when I do my comedy shows, Ben, I actually turn this into a rap. So I have like a hip hop beat behind it. And we all shout out the last word of every sentence. So we go, the sausage is a cunning bird with feathers long and wavy. It swims around the frying pan. Anyway, can you see me at the minute? Am I on the screen? That is my sausage
you're
bird.
quite small. I don't know if you still need to share the screen, but
I'll save that till the end then. I'll show you at the end
yeah.
when I've gone through here. Let me go back to where I was. Where was I? Breadhead Fred. Oh, there's a section on advanced jokes. These are the ones where you might not get the reference. There's a lot of jokes in here. Some of them you'll probably get. There's a lot of jokes about countries in here. For example, I can't recognise many European flags, but I do know Switzerland's, which is definitely a big plus. Oh, and that is because Switzerland's flag is just a big cross, a big plus. Sorry, I had a tickle in my throat. Oh, look, there's the sausage bird again, swimming around a frying pan. It says, "Why is Europe like a frying pan? Because it has grease on the bottom."
That's you.
I just
That's
sneezed
very
then. Yeah.
good.
Are there any more? Oh, and then to finish off with, before we do our drawing, and then we have some questions and answers, it's toilet humor jokes, which is it's almost like the treat at the end of the book. And it basically says, congratulations on making it through the advanced jokes. As a treat, you've got all of these toilet. I'm gonna sneeze again. I'm gonna I've got
Sure.
hay fever
Oh,
and
bless you.
it's really bad at the minute. I took a tablet, but I'm still very, very, very sneezy. I'm
Toilet jokes are the best, I have to say.
toilet jokes aren't the best. And you can see a toilet there saying, I'm looking forward to it. And there's a specific type of beetle there who is pushing a big ball of poo.
Nice.
Here you go. Here's the first one. Why shouldn't you fart in a lift? It's wrong on so many levels. I
Very
quite
good.
like that joke. This next one. What's brown and sounds like a bell? Dung. And there's that beetle there. Can you see him? It's a dung beetle. And obviously a bell, when it rings, it goes dung. I swallowed a load of Scrabble tiles yesterday. Going to the toilet could spell trouble. I quite like that one. That would be quite painful, I think, if you swallowed a load of Scrabble tiles. I'd be very impressed if you managed to poo them out in the exact order that spelt trouble. This is my favourite joke, and I think it's going to be the last one before I start drawing. It's a lot of I visit a lot of schools, and if you would like me to come and visit your school, get in touch with me or get in touch with Ben at our bookshop. Uh, if you don't like this joke, then you probably don't want me to come and visit your school. I say it's educational because it requires a basic grasp of Spanish. Okay, so you need to know a little bit about the Spanish language. What do you call a Spanish man who hides inside your toilets? Senior bumhole, because senior is the Spanish word for Mister, and it also sounds like senior. And I don't know if you can see coming out of that toilet, there's a little speech bubble, and it says, "Hola, mi nombre es Senior Bumhole," which in Spanish means, "Hello, my name is Mr. Bumhole," which my funniest joke in the book. And so that is a poo on a pogo stick. What I am going to do now is remind all the teachers again, please, please, please do send out the link to buy a signed copy to all of the parents. And if it is just a class, please send it around to all of the school, because then I get to sell more books, which is ultimately what I want to do. And I want as many children to get hold of as many of these jokes as possible, because it's going to be summer holidays soon. And I know you're going to be on a lot of boring car journeys. And perhaps some of you might even be lucky enough to be flying somewhere. And this, trust me, just the flipping pancake song, you can sing that for, if you're on a 3-hour flight to Greece, you can sing that flipping pancake song for at least an hour of that flight. And I'm sure your dad and mum will
Exactly
love
what
you.
everyone else will want on that flight.
Yes, exactly. So what we are going to do now, I am going to take this camera. Hopefully, I'm going to stop sharing on here. So if I stop sharing, stop and go back to that. And then if I stop video, am I back on this one now, Ben?
You are?
And can you see my sausage bird? So it's a gravy boat. And then inside it, I have made a sausage and he's relaxing with his wings behind his head. And there's quite a funny story. If I visit your school, I'll be able to show you the video of me making this and then a funny little story about this. So that's if I do get to visit your school in person, because I know there's a couple of schools in the chat. In a week's time, I'm going to come and see you in real life. And I've got so many more funny videos to show you. But for now, what I might quickly do is take this camera and work out how to flip the camera around. Here we go. Come on. There it is. There's the button to flip it around. And you'll be able to see, this is a behind the scenes of I call it my studio, because it's where I do all of my illustration. There's lots of paintings up here of various things. And I also make, because I do comedy shows, I make lots of props and lots of funny things. This thing here, it is a light. If I find the switch to flick it on. And I'm going to do some drawing on this bit of paper here. So classes, make sure you get your papers ready. Let me just shift the light over the top of the paper. We'll do that in a second. What else have I got to show? Oh, I've got a little Lego cat there who looks after me. I've got a real cat that looks a bit like that, but this is a much better behaved Lego cat. There's the book that everybody will want this summer. Uh, I've got lots and lots of art equipment here. I've got pens and paper and all sorts of stuff. And then I've got more in this big shelf thing here. Loads of pens and loads of paints. And I've got like cupboards that have stuff in and art sets. And then if you turn around here, I've got more posters. I like football posters on the wall here. I've got stacks of books, lots of wimpy kids. Um, oh, there's a bat hanging up there for some reason. I don't know why there's a bat hanging up. I want to show you quickly what I've just made for my comedy. I do a comedy show in Edinburgh, and I've just made a string of sausages. They're kind of stuffed, and they're not particularly big, but I've also made some very big sausages as well. These are huge. These are each sausage is a meter long. If I can lay them down and show you on the ground.
uh, it's
So
just bonkers.
that is the kind of thing I get up to in my day. And when my kids get back from school, they say, "What have you been doing today, Dad?" And I said, "Well, I've been making a small string of sausages and then a massive string of sausages." Let me pop those back down there out of the way, and we will get drawing. So hopefully you've all got pens and pencils, and I am going to. Oh, got the hay fever is really getting bad now. Get this in here without switching my phone off is always the trick. And is that the right way round, Ben? Still, or
It looks certainly the paper is landscape at the moment, so it's
paper landscape? Okay,
your hand is now at the top.
so my hand's at the top. I need. Hold on a second. If I do this, whoop, there we go. That should do it.
Right. Okay, that's better.
That's better.
So your
Right.
portrait now.
We're in portrait mode now. So get your
Perfect.
paper portrait, and I'm going to find the right pen. I might use. Oh, do I use my brush? My brush pen is quite fancy. I might use my brush pen. And we are going to draw a poo on a pogo stick. We have got roughly 7 or 8 minutes. So hopefully we'll do it step by step, and hopefully it won't be too tricky for you all. I'm going to have a quick sip of my drink first. Blueberry, really nice. Right, we are going to start. If everyone's ready, we're going to do 2 curved lines in the middle of our paper. Not too big, not too small. And they are like this. So one goes like that. Well, I might use a different pen. I was being fancy there with my brush pen, but I don't know whether it's going to work. And then the other curved line goes next to it like that. That's a bit better. My brush pen was just wearing out. So you should have something that looks a bit like that. That is going to be the body of our poo. And then on the top, we're going to make it just sort of curve back like that, and then join up like that. And I'm going to give it 2 dots for eyes. Now the nose, I always do the nose like this because it's just my style, my illustration style of doing a nose is like that. But you can do your nose however you like. And then I'm going to do a mouth, which is like a sort of a jelly bean shape. And I do 2 teeth for this particular poo. And then I colour in the rest of the mouth black. So you should have something that looks a bit like that. I'll just leave it a second, just for everyone to catch up. I might give my other pen a shake, because I think the pen that I've got at the minute might be a bit too fat for doing detail. Let me see if I've got anything that might be a little bit better. I've got a Sharpie there. I wonder whether the Sharpie will work. We'll see. Right, we're going to do the arms next. Now, the first arm is going to be the one that is... One is going to be holding onto the pogo stick, and he's going to be almost doing like a kind of a trick pogo where he's holding onto it with one arm and waving with the other, and he's only got one leg on it as well. So it looks like he's doing some kind of stunt. So the first arm comes out like that. So 2 lines that go out like that. And hands can be quite tricky. We're going to do a thumb first. And the thumb, if I move my paper over here, you might be able to see it a bit better. The thumb goes like that, almost like a paper clip that's been opened up, I suppose. We're going to do three fingers, and those three fingers, they're all like little baked bean kind of shapes. One, two, three on top of each other. And the poo is going to be holding the handle of the pogo stick. And so next we're going to do the pogo stick itself, which is going to be two lines that kind of go diagonally towards the bottom of the poo. So one line, two lines. I mean, you can extend them a bit further down to there. And they go back out the top, but just a little way out the top. And if your hand needs joining up a little bit, I don't know if you can see, I've got a little gap there with mine. Just join it up if you've got any gaps like that. So you should have something that looks a little bit like that. Oh, what I didn't do, and I might go back to my fancy brush pen for this, you can add, if you've got pencils, it's probably better, you can add some poo texture, some little kind of cracked lines that go down one of the side of your poo. I might just do that down to sort of there. Just adds a little bit of texture. Back to the stick, the pogo stick. On the bottom here is the platform where he rests his feet. Although, like I said earlier, he's only going to be resting one foot. And then at the top, we do the handle, which is not quite a rectangle shape. It's more of a rectangle that opens out. I don't know what they're called. Probably got a name. Rhombus? Is that a rhombus? I can never remember all my shapes. We are going to go back down here where the feet are going to be. So if you take a line from what would be the poo's bum and do a curve that goes and sits onto the platform like that, and then do another one that goes like that. So that is one foot is resting on the pogo stick. The other foot goes out the back of the pogo stick like this. So it looks like he's sticking out a leg in the air. Oh, going back to the handle, you can add in some like lines that make it look like you've got like the grip of the handle. And then at the bottom of the pogo stick, you have the springs. So you do what I do a little bit more of the pole like that. It goes down a little bit. And then I do the springs. Now the springs are a bit like the fingers that we did. So they're kind of elongated baked bean shapes. Almost like Tic Tacs or something like that. Perhaps a little bit longer than that. So I stack about 5 or 6 of those up together, and that makes the spring. 5 will do. And then underneath the spring, so when you've done sort of 5 or 6 of those, I might just stop for a second, just rest for a second and let you guys catch up, just in case I'm going a bit too quick. I never know. It's very difficult when you're doing these online because I can't see. Normally, if I'm doing these in an assembly or in a classroom, I can see sort of how everyone's getting on. But I can't really online. But what I'm going to do next is the kind of, at the bottom of a poker stick, you have like a rubber stopper, which you kind of bounce on. And it's that kind of shape. It's a bit similar to the handle, except I colour that in black. We are missing an arm. So once you've done the bottom of your pogo stick, we're going to do an arm. And the arm on the other side is going to be curved. So 2 curved lines. And I'm going to have mine waving. Again, hands can be quite tricky. I start with the thumb. So it's kind of a curve like that. And then it curves out the other way and back. And then I do another little curve there. That's the thumbs are always the trickier bit. And then the 3 fingers are just 3 finger shapes. So 1, 2, 3, and back round. And what you can do, I'll just move my paper up, as like a finishing touch, is a boing line. That's a technical term, a boing line. I've been to art college and they teach you that in art school. Uh, boing line. You can make it a double boing, so you can sort of see where he's come from. There we go. And I like to have my poo on a pogo stick saying something, saying a phrase. You can have yours saying whatever you like. And that's one of the things I like when I visit schools is seeing how creative they are with what their poos say. I do like a little line that goes towards the mouth. And I'm going to do a phrase. You guys, you might have heard of the phrase YOLO or YOLO, which is you only live once. You only live once. Similar phrase, but it's not YOLO or YOLO. It is YOG fo dot 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 dot, and that stands for you only get flushed once. And then to finish it off, what I would advise you all to do is to sign yours so you know it's yours. I'm going to sign mine, Olaf Falafel. And that is my finished poo on a pogo stick. Now, quite excitingly, I have actually got one that I made earlier here, and another one that I did do with my brush pen before it started fading, and I've signed all of those. So I've actually got 3 poos on pogo sticks. I'm going to flip my camera back around so you're not looking at there anymore, and you're looking back at me. And I'll put you back at one thing.
And with mine, that's 4. So there we go.
Oh,
But
Ben. No one wants Ben's.
mine's the booby prize.
And what I was thinking of doing, guys, is running a competition for the school who has the parents or the children that order the most copies of my book. So the school that has the children who order the most copies of my book will win. So the top 3 will each win for their library a signed poo on a pogo stick original artwork. There's literally just 3 of these in circulation. If
Can
you want
prizes
to
get
have,
any better than that?
yes, if you want to have one of those in your library, a signed Olaf Falafel poo on a pogo stick, all you need to do is make sure that you get your teachers to send that link around and get your parents to order you a copy. Not only will you get a signed one of these, you also have a chance of having one of these for your school. There we
Brilliant.
go. I think I would love to. Also, I would love if you could get your schools to take photos of your drawings, and send them to Ben, and then he can pass them on to me. That would be fantastic because I would love to see all of your,
Or tag us on
especially,
socials.
yeah, especially if you've got yours saying something really funny. Because a lot of the kids in the schools that I visit, some of them are just like hilarious. Like I'm a proper comedian who gets paid to make people laugh, but I swear I have met 10-year-olds who are funnier than me. When it comes to doing the captions in these, I crease up sometimes when I read some of them.
So
I
let's
think
let's do
we
some
are ready.
questions whilst you're. We've
Yes.
got maybe 2 or 3 minutes left. So quick few questions. So if you want to put your questions in the Q&A, I can see that Natalie Wordham, and I can't remember what school she's from. Oh, hang on, she's from Western Rin. She says it in her question. Thank you.
Oh yes, I can see
How do
it.
you come up with your ideas? That's from Saturn class at Western Rin.
So, hello, by the way, hello, Western Rin. It sounds Welsh. I'm guessing you're in Wales somewhere. I might be wrong. Hello, Saturn class. How do I come up with my ideas? I tell you I what I try and do, and I've done this with practice over time, is to try and take everything in. I know it's difficult, and I try and have a filter where I think to myself, that could be funny, or that could be. And I don't necessarily come up with a funny idea straight away, but what I do, which is really important, I have notepads. And I also have the notes app on my phone. But I have loads and loads of these. Let me just grab them. Little pocket books, and they are filled. I mean, that one I've decorated. It was yellow, so I decorated it to make it look like cheese. They are filled with notes of things, some little drawings, and they're things that I might just be walking down the street and I might see something. I think, oh, that sounds really funny, and I try and keep one of these with me in my pocket at all time or in my bag, and I write down. And then if I've written it down, I will then go back to it and think, oh, that was a really good idea. I wonder if I could turn that into a joke or if I could turn that into something funny. So my advice is not necessary. My first bit of advice is to try and take in everything, whether it's read lots of books, listen to the radio, watch TV shows, watch movies, listen to songs, read newspapers. Newspapers are really good. And then write down anything that you think. Just even if it's not particularly funny, if it's just a phrase or someone has said something, you're like, oh, I've not heard anyone say that before. Write it down in a notepad, or if you've got like an app on your phone, I use the notes app. If I've not got, I do like doing one of these because I can draw a lot easier in one of these. But if I've not got one of these on me, I use my notes app. Right, let's do another question.
Another question. I've got one here. Kate Mott. Now she is from All Saints in Newton Abbot. All Saints March Academy. That's the longest name of a bookshop of a school ever. She has asked, as has
Newton Abbott.
somebody. She's asked, "What is your favourite book ever?"
My favourite book ever. Oh, well, I would say that this is definitely the Ha Ha Bonk book. Used to be, but now it is this one. No, the Ha Ha Bonk book, when I was growing up, it was definitely the Ha Ha Bonk book. There was also another weird, I used to like really weird books when I was a kid. There was a book, it was called How to Hold a Crocodile. And it was just filled with lots of useless bits of advice. And it actually genuinely, one of the bits of advice was how to hold a crocodile. And you have to, I mean, it was a children's book and it was all sorts of weird stuff like how to tell the time using a sundial and how to play certain card games and how to. So there was, yeah, lots of stuff. If you are going, I can see a few people saying, sorry, we have to leave. Thank you
Yeah,
so
yeah.
much for thank you so much for coming along. And make sure you do send that link out, teachers. And I will be busy signing lots of books. But so yeah, if you do have to leave now, but if you don't, I can certainly stay on for another 5, 10 minutes if that's okay.
It's nice to keep it to an hour, so
Okay,
let's not go
we'll do
over.
two.
Let's not go.
We'll do two more questions,
Two
and then
more
we'll
questions.
keep them
I
really
mean,
quick.
questions from Deansfield. What? This is a lovely question. This is from 4W at Deansfield Primary. What was the first book you had published, and how did you feel when you saw it published?
That was a book called Old MacDonald Heard a Parp, which, if you see it in other countries, it's called Old MacDonald Heard a Fart. And it was my first ever book. It was about 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And the feeling that I got is still the same feeling today whenever I get a book. That feeling hasn't diminished at all. And it is a feeling of overwhelming pride and just excitement and just feeling like I can only relate it to when I was a kid and it was Christmas because it was that level of excitement and that level of going into Waterstones or going into our bookshop in Tring.
Always
Sorry,
Mindy.
I only said Waterstones because there's a water. The nearest one to me is Waterstones. Although I do, my favourite book is Our Bookshop in Tring. But going in there and seeing this on the shelf, or seeing my very first book on the shelf, or seeing any of the books that I've done, it's just the best feeling ever. It's amazing.
We could talk for hours, but it's been an absolute joy, Olaf. Thank you for your time. Thank you to all the schools who joined. There's been questions from how did Kettle Sing?
I want to answer.
Fellis Cliff Primary School. There's
Oh,
another
I
one
like
who's
that
done
joke about
a joke about an
axolotls.
axolotl.
Yeah, I like that. I've just read it. It asks a lot of questions. Well,
Axolotl questions. But listen, Harrowby, again from you, and there's hundreds of other schools who are watching. Thank you so much. Thank you, Olaf, one more time, and have a great summer holidays. And we'll see you for a virtual in the new. We've got Hannah Gold coming in October. That's already announced. So we'll see you in the autumn. Bye bye.